Technically speaking, I ain't talking vegan when I said that I've been eating, making money on the side, but I use it for the main.
Right. So we are on 1.2 of the CCNP collaboration, and we're really just talking about describing the purpose of edge devices in the Cisco Collaboration architecture, such as Expressway and Cube. So basically, in an architecture, in a collaboration architecture, which is really just voice and video, Cisco calls that collaboration, or unified communication, and it's really just voice and video and its subcategories of that. So in the voice and video architecture, again, it's called collaboration architecture. In that architecture, let me make sure I got this. In this architecture, at the edge of our network, we have what's called an expressway server and a cube router, right? And basically for this exam, they just want you to be able to explain it, okay? Or describe it, should I say. So if you take a look, I have a picture right here. It's just like, kind of like the data center that I work in. And it's just giving a whole bunch of servers and a whole bunch of routers and switches that are connected with each other. All right. So let's just talk about Expressway, right? Expressway is a way for an employee that works remotely, or, anyone that's not, directly, in the internal system, is for them to be able to communicate. So Expressway, I'm gonna scroll down a little bit because it just gives you history. But Expressway is literally like a server, and it sits at the edge of our network. And the Expressway actually comes in two flavors. It comes in a core flavor, so we call it Expressway C, and it comes in an edge flavor. We call that Expressway E. Expressway E is edge, and it sits on the edge of our network, on the edge of the Expressway core, in between two firewalls, right? The one firewall is from the edge, Expressway E, to the internet, to the public internet. So again, firewalls is, filtering and removing unauthorized access. And then we have another firewall that is before our Expressway C, which is the core, which handles, most of our processing. And we have that so we can filter another layer of unauthorized access because we want to be secure. Okay. Now, these Expressway servers, both C and E, automatically report back to our call manager. So, we're on 1.2, so you already know what a call manager is. That's our call processing house. That's our, our main brain to process calls and audio calls and video calls and such. So it tells you, it's our main powerhouse. It tells you if it can go, if it cannot go, it's the originator, it's the terminator, right? Now we have our expressways, which what it only does is it relays these services that the call manager has and allows our remote workers to access these services, which is video, audio. We even have our chat service, which is called Jabber, and any other services, any other extra media services that we have. But on a simple term, it's really just phone calls and video messages, video calls, and chat messages, which we call Jabber. All right. So it connects us to a whole bunch of other things. I'm not going to get into it, but this expressway, the two different ones, edge and core, again, they're here to help our remote workers. So if you are, that's kind of like the day and age where everyone is, works from home, or at least a hybrid setting. You would connect to your, to the company's network in a VPN type of way. But if you do not want to use a VPN, you don't have to. You can connect to the network just using our expressway servers. So you would literally just have to, utilize the service that we put out on this expressway, and you can, utilize everything in the company without having to get on a VPN, right? A VPN is a virtual private network. And that's really all the expressway is for, right? It's literally just to help us as remote workers connect to the network as if we're at home. I mean, as if we're in the office without a VPN. Okay. We don't need a VPN. And it has, I put more information in here so you can kind of like get an understanding. Let me go from the top here. So, when I talk about, when I talk about expressway, we're literally have to go back and talk about how the expressway come about. And as we know, Cisco is not a company that creates its own technology. Cisco is a company that buys companies that creates their own technology, because big bank takes little bank. All right. So Cisco has a really big bank. So what Cisco decides to do is buy up these small tech companies and slap their name on it and call it what they want to call it. So, this expressway came from BCS, Video Communication Server. It was brought about into the world by a company named Tandberg. Okay. Tandberg was like, hey, I am an innovator in technology. I now created a video communication server and, all this good stuff about it. Cisco, rubs his hands like Birdman and say, ooh, that looks good. Let me take it. So Cisco go ahead and drops a bank on Tandberg, buying them out, and then literally changes this from Tandberg to Cisco, and then from video communication server to expressway. This is exactly what Cisco did. Like, they didn't even care to change anything up for real. They just put their name on someone else's stuff. I mean, it's their stuff now because they bought them out, right? So, I put in here what BCS is and, the history and the technology behind it, right? I'm not going to go into it. Probably going to make it too long. But just know that the Cisco Expressway is literally just a video communication server that was, created by a whole nother company. And this was all about operating as a remote worker, operating as though you are already in the office. You do not need to use all these other services like a VPN, for instance, because the expressway gives you that firewall connectivity. Okay. Well, that firewall capabilities, right? And it has two firewalls that sit in between. Okay. Now let's talk about CUBE. Cisco Unified Border Element. That's what CUBE stands for. CUBE is just a router, and it's a router that allows a digital line of communication. Now, of course, I have to give you a little back end of, lines of communication before you can actually understand CUBE. Now, we know that back in the day, the only way we could, send calls is through, the operator. We would literally pick up the phone. The operator would be like, how can I direct your call? You say, hey, I want to get to Dr. Ellis in Richmond, Virginia. And then they're going to connect you to Dr. Ellis in Richmond, Virginia, right? But obviously that wasn't scalable. We actually need computers. We need robots to do the job because humans, it's just too slow. Then they got sick. They couldn't train folks. Now the operator line is just too busy. And that's bad for business. So they come up with an automatic way to transmit calls, right? Which we call a public branch exchange or a switch. You can just say that. Now, with that technology in the back then, they had like literal Ethernet poles. Ethernet cables. These Ethernet cables was connected to poles. You can see the poles outside right now. The towers that got the 5G satellite on them, those poles right there allow us to send voice and video connectivity. Okay. Now, those poles are physical. You don't have to have, before we came up with virtualization, we had, like to say, a whole bunch of poles, a whole bunch of Ethernet cables we had to use for our voice and video communication. But technology advances, and now we don't have to have a physical or a whole bunch of physical cables to transmit the data or voice and video. What we can do is have a virtual line, a virtual, I'm gonna say virtual cable, right? We call that a SIP trunk. Why? A SIP is the protocol. I don't want to get into the protocol because we got another exam topic that actually talks about SIP. But a trunk, think of, what a trunk is at the base of it, and then it had like a tree trunk. It's like the base, and then it has, all its branches to branch off from the trunk. So it's the same thing. The trunk, the SIP is the protocol. The trunk is its base to where it can now branch off into wherever it needs to branch. And this is a logical line. It is not, you cannot touch a SIP trunk. It is logical. It's something that we virtualize. How do we virtualize it? We take an IP address on the call manager, put it there. We take another IP, we take I would say the same IP address and put it on our router. So our router has the IP address, our call manager, which is a server, has an IP address, and they come together and create a virtual telephone line. Okay. I kind of went in a little bit as far as like analog lines. So that's where the FXS and the FXO come in. I don't want to go too far into that, but I did have a picture here of a gateway, an analog gateway. Okay, we have a bunch of analog gateways. One of them is a Cisco ISR, integrated service router. It's a generation 2. We have an analog telephone adapter. Those are usually like for paging systems. So maybe if you work in like a warehouse and you heard them page over the intercom, or maybe you work at a hospital, or you've been to the hospital, you all been to the hospital, and you hear, room 10 needs Dr. Ellis, or something, or code red or whatever. They're using a Cisco, probably not Cisco, but they're using an analog telephone adapter, an ATA, right? Let's see, what else? Now I want to go to in. So with these devices, which is, analog gateways, Cisco decides to upgrade their software. And because they're trying to lessen how many products they come out, they're trying to lessen all these, hardware components. So what they did is they came out with a new software called iOS XE, and that's literally, when you enable this software, you're able to, do more things on the router than what it came out the box as. And one of those things is Cube software. Cube software does nothing but houses and provides the capabilities of a SIP trunk. We talked about what a SIP trunk is. It's a virtual telephone line. Okay, it's virtual. It's not real. You can't touch it. It's created by a server having an IP address, and the router, an actual gateway, the physical gateway, having an IP address, and those two meet up with each other and they create a virtual line of communication. Okay. Now, this router, this gateway can only have SIP capabilities if the software is on it, if the Cube software is enabled. Most of the time it's already on here. You just have to do like a command to enable it, to actually bring it up. And I believe it's only on, it's only on ASR and ISR routers. So again, if you guys follow me on Facebook, I did a Facebook Live and I showed you guys an ASR router. It looks just like this, right? And I showed it to you in the data center that looks just like this, right? This is nothing but a cabinet, right? A cabinet with a whole bunch of these, or ISRs or VMware servers, but they're all networking devices and they have a whole bunch of routers and switches and servers. That's all the data center is cabinets full of these things that are connected together or not connected together. Hey, who knows? The data center can get crazy. But these Cisco routers, these Cisco gateways, they support voice and video communication. And specifically, we're talking about Cube. They have this software, iOS XE software, that allows us to use Cisco Unified Border Element, which is a way to utilize SIP trunking. Why do we want SIP trunking? Because we do not want to have 1,000,002 telephone cables. We don't care to have all these physical equipment, all these Ethernet cables running through our company. Then we need a technician to come and look at it. And then, it's just a lot. We could just have virtual stuff in the cloud, and it just works better that way than not only having to come out of pocket for physical cables, we got to manage physical cables. And as you guys know, in 2023, we're trying to use robots and AI to do the jobs for us. So we don't need all of that stuff. We can literally let technology, AI, automation do our jobs for us. So when you guys are saying, you're scared that AI is taking over, AI has already been in here. We're already using it, and it's clearly not taking that many jobs. But it's helping the company lessen money without having bulky, heavy physical equipment. Okay, so if you were a technician that was the one to come out here and install Ethernet cables or telephone poles, whoop, and now someone else, now technology has advanced and said, oh, we don't need all these telephone poles. We could just do virtual lines of communication like SIP trunks. You would think, okay, well, my job is being replaced by automation, but really you should just learn SIP trunking, and you should learn how to manage that. And guess what? You're still in a job, right? So don't get your panties in a bunch when you are seeing AI and automation come in and, do things that you used to do or take things off your hands. That just means you need to learn what the AI is doing. You need to learn how to automate the network. You need to learn how to, you gotta learn the machine, or the machine will learn you, right? Let's see. So I kind of had a diagram right here of Cube. So it says legacy PBX, but let's just think of this as the call manager. Call manager is a PBX, but it's not a legacy PBX. But let's just say this is a call manager. And you see the phones are connected to the call manager. The call manager is the brain. It's the call processor. And then from the call manager, we literally would have lines of communication, right? These say BRI lines. You can think of PRI lines. We're not going to get too deep into that, but they have the lines that you can literally telephone poles, right? Now, in that telephone pole, those lines are literally going to connect to our gateway. Our gateway is, I just showed you, it's the analog, Cisco, ASR, ISR, and some other ones. Now, our gateway, what is a gateway? The gateway is a way out of our network. That's what gateway stands for. It's a routing device, but we call it gateway because it is a way that we leave our network. It is a gateway, right? See the correlation? So we have our gateway, and our gateway is literally going to have a connection to our provider, our service provider. Let's say we get service from Comcast. They are the ones that provide us with internet service to our business. We can literally use a different way of communicating instead of a full Ethernet cable. We can use a virtual a virtual line, a SIP trunk to our service provider. It helps with money. You can see right here, low bandwidth requirements. We don't have to have a whole bunch of bandwidth that we're using. We'll get more into bandwidth, but it's low cost and it's better. And it's just, what the world is on now, right? And I kind of did a little one here as well. We have the internet, you have your business, and then you have the service provider. Let's just call that Comcast, okay? And, we have our SIP trunks. Our SIP trunks is going to go all the way through. Our SIP trunk is going to hit our PBX, aka our call manager, going to hit our server, or even our routing device, our gateway, we're going to say, going to hit our internet, and the internet can go back out into our gateway, okay? DMZ is literally like your firewalls, okay? It's a demilitarized zone. It's just, a way to, trap information to filter it, okay? DMZ means that, it's in between two firewalls. At least that's how I'm able to understand it, okay? So just in terms, Cube is literally just a way for us to use a virtual telephone line, period. Okay? So for voice and video, right, you can see right here, voice and video. Okay? And I gave you just a little bit of diagrams just so you can kind of soak it up and understand. But as a summary, Expressway is a security device that sits at the edge of the network and provides secure access to collaboration, which is voice and video. It provides secure access to our voice and video network for remote users and devices. Okay? We do not need a VPN to go and access our company's internal documents. We just need the Expressway for us, the Expressway enabled and configured for us to just go on and do what we need to do. So I don't know if you guys work from home or not, but if you do, you probably notice that some things you don't need the VPN to do, like make calls on your computer or receive chat messages or whatever the case may be. You do not need to be on VPN. Some things you do, some things require you to be, totally secure, but for video, voice, and Jabber or like chat messages, you don't have to connect to a VPN, right? My job right now, we use Microsoft Teams, and I do not connect to a VPN to answer my manager or to talk to my coworkers. I need VPN when I want to access our call manager and start doing configurations on our servers. Then yeah, I gotta get into that. So that's all Expressway is for. Okay, it's a way that remote users can access our network without using a VPN because it gives you that security already. And then in turn, Cisco Unified Border Element, CUBE for short, is literally a router, right? CUBE is a software, and the router was literally just enabled. We just enabled this software, and the software says, hey, we will act as a bridge between you and, let's say your service provider. And this bridge will be in a sense of virtual lines, right? CUBE is synonymous to like SIP trunking. Again, that's how I am able to remember it, because it literally just allows us to use that capability. That's all it's for. If you do not have this CUBE feature on, you probably can't use SIP trunking like that. At least not out to the world. You can use SIP trunking in your network, like from your call manager to your gateway, but you cannot use SIP trunking to your gateway and the internet. You would have to use physical telephone pole cables, and that gets expensive, okay? And we're always trying to figure out how to save money. So Expressway and CUBE is nothing but edge devices. They are in our network, they're networking devices, and they sit at the edge. What's the edge? The edge is us and the outside world. That's an edge. I mean, it kind of makes sense, right? We all know what the edge is. So us and the outside world, and there's a middle ground. That middle ground between us and the outside world is called an edge. That edge has an Expressway server, and the Expressway come in two flavors. We said Expressway C and Expressway E. And also our edge has a CUBE, which is just software that's enabled on a router, enabled on a gateway, right? That allows us just to save more money, right? I have some resources here. You guys can just click on to learn more information. Our key terms, we just want to really make sure we understand these key terms that deals with really understanding the foundation of edge devices like Expressway and CUBE. So ASR, right? CUBE, obviously, DID, DMZ, ENM, that's ear and mouth, FXO, FXS, those are ports. So you should definitely know the difference between them. ISR, IBR, PBX, POTS, PSTN, TDM, SBC, right? These are keywords you should really know before moving on from 1.2 to 1.3, right? And as you go through this and, you go through the blog, you go through these keyword terms, and you feel like you have a good grasp on it, definitely take the assessment so you can kind of test your knowledge. Like what feature capability of the Cisco VCS, we already know what Cisco VCS is because Cisco took Tandberg VCS, video communication server, and just put Expressway on it. So when you see the terms VCS, it just means a video communication server. So what feature capabilities of a video communication server was the main reason Cisco used this product design for the Cisco Expressway, right? We didn't talk about H323. We didn't talk about IPv4. We didn't talk about Microsoft interoperability, even though that's one of the good things. But we did talk about NAT and firewall traversal. So this is the answer. You're just going to keep going down and just making sure that you understand. Which of the following is an analog voice gateway, right? We talked about an ISR. We talked about a PBDM, but that's not a gateway. That's a chip. We talked about we didn't talk about BG, but we talked about ATA. And it's probably not this. It's probably this one. I think it's BG because the ISR, maybe. I don't know this question, but it could be VG right here. I think ATA was retired. And then, what operating system of Cisco routers should be used when running gateway services? Which operating system? We talked about it. iOS XE, like it's all here. Okay, let me see. What's 4? What did I say? 4 is B. Oh, see, I knew it. Which of the following is an analog voice gateway? Let's go. Let me see if I had this in this blog. I probably just didn't read it. Oh, here's the gateway. Cisco analog gateways. The answer's right down here. See this. I knew it. The ATA. I'm so used to seeing ATA, and I've worked for some companies that literally have the 188s, and they're old, and I don't know why they still have them. But yes, this is a replacement, so it's only ATA 190, and then the ISR, generation 2, and then of course these ones here. So if you look down at the question, it literally asks me which one is a gateway. This is replaced. It's not a gateway any longer, so I can't choose that. This is not a gateway. It's a chip. And then this is an ISR 29, but 2900. I don't think it's a G2. And then of course they have this one. So using process of elimination, this seems like the best choice because it actually said it in the blog. Okay. Even though this seems like it would be it too, but it's too specific. So that's why I didn't want to choose it. But yeah, so you see there, that's exactly what you want to do. Go through this blog, make sure you go through the key terms and take the assessment. And then we're on to the next lesson. Now, if you ever want to get a little more information, you can always click on my Medium blog. When I did work for a company called Ashton Technologies, this is how I got my start as a network engineer. I ended as a senior voice engineer. I was definitely gone before 2022, but doesn't matter. I still write blogs for them. You can literally, get some more information about video communication. I literally gave you a nice history lesson, and I thought it was pretty interesting when I was learning about the history of voice communication. It's interesting how Cisco does not create its own products. You would really think, that Cisco is, since they're the leader of IT solutions, that they are the innovators, and they're not. They literally just bought all these companies out and put their name on their freaking product. Like, Cisco's a beast. But anyway, yeah, that's it, guys. Let me go back here. That's it. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, you can definitely, type it in the comment section. And you can also go into the Discord and ask any questions that you have. I am on the path of getting my CCNP to solidify my knowledge in voice collaboration. And I'm already in the field, so it kind of, doesn't matter if I get it or not. but I definitely want to, again, just brain dump it into a certification. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and until next time, we will do 1.3. Configure these network components to support Cisco Collaboration.
Thank you.